There we go. Okay, we're ready to go here. Another week of We the People. Me and my twin sister Hyacinth.
Yeah.
We're here. Jerry's not with us today.
Oh, I think he's off in La La Land, right?
I don't know. I don't know if he was the one that the SWAT team was after last night, shooting a gun out his window or not.
Don't be saying that. Jerry is my buddy.
Jerry had another appointment today, so he couldn't make it.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
I know
it's Monday.
you've always got community announcements.
I
Why
know,
don't you do
it's
your...
Monday as usual. I hope everyone is doing well out there. I have a couple announcements. First one, I'd like to talk a little about the senior. It's at the last month meeting, at March meeting, this month I would say, we had a fellow coming to talk about the RICO. He was running for a Republican town committee. I think he's
on the Republican town. Yeah, Rico Dents.
Yeah, so he wants to do what they call Hartford Can We Help Day, Be Kind Day. I think that's what he calls it. That's going to be on March 5th. So that would be actually be next Monday.
Yep.
Yeah, next Monday. And it's at 2 p.m. Again, he wants to do anything that a senior might have in-house need cleaning. He's willing to, get some volunteers and do that. So any seniors out there that need some help in home, and cannot do it on your own, please call Rico. And Rico's number is 860-263-9046. And it's like, he said cleaning or painting, whatever needs to be done in your basement. You might have stuff that you need to, get out of your basement. That all can happen too. So I hope you take advantage of this, situation here, because I think it's a great thing for us to do for seniors in the city of Hartford. And the other thing is coming up in March 13th at the South End Wellness Center at 830 Maple Avenue. We're going to be starting what you call English as second language for people who doesn't speak the English language that well. So it's going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12:45 to 1:45 every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's another thing that's happening at the South End Senior Wellness Center, and that's at 830 Maple Avenue. And, if you need some more information, you can just call the Senior Center number, which is 860-757-0840. And you can get the information you need there. The other quick thing I'd like to also announce, my daughter teaches at Moreland School, and she called me and she said, "Ma, can you help me get some publicity on this fundraiser that you're doing?" They're calling it Hoop for Your Heart. What they're trying to do is to get kids more active, more, So these are they're going to be having some kind of a basketball tournament against the staff and the kids, or, other school or stuff like that.
I hope they can beat the staff.
Yeah, so, and again, it's, they said $2 for adult and $1 for children. And ticket will be sold in advance. It's mainly for the school, but if anyone wants to go there to support Hoop for the Heart, I think that's a good, wonderful thing to do.
Well, this is something hopefully the media will pay attention to.
Yeah,
also,
because they don't always pay attention to, things good that's happening. It's always a negative.
Well, when somebody gets shot or there's something bad going
Right.
on, they're hearing a heartbeat to
Right.
publicize it, which is what people want to watch on the news, I guess.
Right, but unfortunately, that's what's happening. They're also going to have, Hot 93.7. Oh, so it's the TV, it's the radio station
Radio.
versus the school staff playing basketball. I think this should be
really?
fun. Yeah, you should go, Kevin.
I've seen
Yeah.
some of those radio DJs. They're
And
not in the best shape.
And this is March 2nd. This is Friday coming up. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
from 4 to 6 p.m. at Moreland Gym. That's Moreland School and Hillside Avenue. I think I'm definitely going to be going to this one.
Yeah, we'll have to go check that out.
So let's check it out and let's support Hoop for Your Heart. I mean, we need to get our young people in shape because they're completely out of shape. Lack of exercise. I know they're very good at getting the kids physical education in the elementary. However, I'm not too sure about the high school and how much of that's happening there. But
I know we've cut back on a lot of that, the extracurricular activities and the sports and things like that.
yes,
For
and
budget reasons.
yeah, but I think it's a good thing. And again, I got to let you know that Hartford High boys are in the move. They are 22 or 23, 22 and 0. So they're at the state level now. So that is awesome. So I'm gonna be going to their games and be the cheerleader for them. And I'm really so excited. Tomorrow night they'll be having a game. I think it's gonna be at Buckley High School. So I'm very excited for them, and I'm hoping that they can bring the cup home to Hartford High because we desperately need a cup. We haven't had any big trophy for a long, long time. So I'm really excited for them. Yeah. So those are some of the announcement. I hope you will all take advantage of good things that happen in the city of Hartford because let's face it, we often say, Kevin, and we are guilty of it too. We talk a lot about the negativity, but we don't do a lot with the positive that's happening in the city. So I think it's good for us to talk about. Yeah, we need to talk about the bad things that happen,
Yeah.
but let's talk about some of the good stuff that's happening in the city of Hartford.
Well, if
because
we can
there
get rid
is
of
good
some of those
stuff.
bad things, we'll have a lot more good things going
I
on.
know,
hopefully.
and you know what? That is human nature. We always harp on the bad things more than we do on the good things. But please forgive us. That's
Well,
human nature.
one other good thing, and I see it in the community calendar here all the time, is Jubilee House on Clifford Street.
Yeah,
And I think that's the Sisters of St. Joseph.
Yeah,
I think there might be
Sister-
a couple other,
from the St. Mary's home too. And
yeah, I
something
think there
like
might
that.
be some other denominations or whatever they're called in there. But I know the Sisters of St. Joseph, because I do business with them, and that's who pays my bill is the Sisters of
Oh,
St.
good,
Joseph.
good.
But anyways, they do a lot of things down there. It's 40 Clifford Street, right next to
Right.
St. Augustine School.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth checking out. They have computer classes, English as a second language. I think they were doing tax preparation. There's a lot of things going on there, and it's a nonprofit. They don't make any money off of it, but the Jubilee House is definitely something worth looking into if people, especially people in the South End,
Yeah.
are looking for a place to get some assistance as far as learning computers, learning to speak English and
English,
things like that.
yeah.
So
yeah, and also I just also want to remind people too about the Maple Avenue Revitalization Group meeting that's coming up on March 8th. Even though it's another week we have time, but I still want to remind people that this is a very important meeting to come to because we're having someone from the tax office to come and talk about, they had extended the the appeal time for people who are still trying to figure out how can this be when my property isn't what it is, stuff like that. So they're extending that, and this is going to be a very important meeting. We're also going to be discussing the blighted property that might be next door to you that, that needs to be fixed up. The city had hired some people to go around. Each neighborhood has an organizer who will start looking at each blighted.
unfortunately, they don't live in Hartford yet, but hey,
Well,
what are you
I
gonna do?
suppose that's one of the things that they have to do is live in the city. I always said, how can you walk the walk if you don't talk, or whatever the case may be. But the point is that they're going to be coming because, again, there might be some funding available for people who have issues with their housing, like, the porches. There's some funding with the porches program that maybe they can apply for if they're qualified, stuff like that. So there is still things in the city. It's just a matter of how do you find it and make sure, you use it to your advantage.
And one of the other things is, people need to be aware that they don't have to live in your area, in
Right,
the Berry
it's
Square
all-
area
it's
to
the
go to your
whole
meeting.
city.
Maybe people from other areas that don't have an invigorated NRZ could come and take some ideas
yeah.
away how to build their NRZ and get it moving more.
Yeah, it's as a matter of fact, I'm supposed to be going to some meeting tomorrow evening at the library to talk about immigrants and how we can get more immigrants involved and stuff like that. But the point is that, anyone can come to the Maple Avenue Revitalization Group meeting. It's open to the public. And, as we said, you come to the meeting and we'll help you get where you need to go. Yeah.
I see I think that's Reverend Brown in the booth reading the paper.
Oh, okay.
Hard to see him with all the lights in my
So
eyes
tell
there,
me,
but-
Kevin, what is going on in the city? The election is coming up soon.
Okay.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday is town committee, but I know Jonathan will be calling in a few minutes.
Oh, yeah?
Because he's been texting me over the weekend.
What is
We had
Jonathan's issue?
talked about this, I think the last 2 weeks we've been on, this whole issue with CRT.
Yeah, what's
And
going
now
on?
apparently it's part of a federal investigation where the feds have subpoenaed records, at least that's what John Lunder from the Current is reporting. And CRT, the city gives them a lot of money. The
Oh,
city,
yeah,
the
we know
state, the
that.
federal government. And again, they've grown to this monster of a nonprofit that I don't think anybody knows how to rein it in. And the more it grows, the more money is
Oh, yeah.
that should be going to programming goes to high-priced salaries. Now there's a former executive director who was making a huge salary, and they demoted him from that position into essentially a no-show job now,
Oh,
where he
wow.
gets over $100,000 a year.
We're paying him
and he
to
lives in
show-
Florida. He doesn't even show up in the office. He lives in Florida.
Where's the justice
So,
here?
well, how many kids could we be providing breakfast for or daycare for with
Yeah,
that
with that
$100,000?
money. Yeah.
And I think that's a problem overall with a lot of our nonprofits. You know, I'm looking, you know, I mentioned Reverend Brown sitting in the booth. I mentioned you sitting here. You're essentially doing the work of nonprofits
But not a
with
penny.
no penny given to you. And you're out there day in and day out doing it. You know, Reverend Brown with his vigils and the Mothers United Against Violence, you with your NRZ, and you know, with all the other things you're involved in with the high school, with Hartford High and everything else. But it's disheartening that we have so many nonprofits in the city that their executive directors are collecting huge salaries, don't live in Hartford, but they have the audacity to come in and tell us how to run our city and run our neighborhoods when they don't even live here.
Right.
And I think that's something this council really needs to start looking at. How much of this money is being used for basically fraud? You know, if you've got somebody in a no-show job that's being funded as a nonprofit
Yeah,
agency,
why do you pay somebody
that's
that
fraud.
doesn't show up
People
to a
should get
job?
arrested for that.
Yeah.
And whoever, you know, the person that's taking that $100,000 check, if he knows he's not showing up to work, he's just as guilty as the person that's signing the check and approving
The
it.
person who signs us check is just as
So-
guilty as giving him that check.
Now, the phones here still aren't working.
So maybe you better use your phone.
So if anybody wants to call in, it's 860-883-2297. That's 860-883-2297. That's my cell phone here. We'll put you on speakerphone on the cell and let you talk to us.
The other thing I wanted to say to you, you remember we have a neighborhood plan that we've put together. The city helped us, planning and zoning help us put it together, and we're looking at the things that hasn't been done, the thing that has been done, and
A lot of your stuff has actually been done, though.
actually a lot. And as a matter of fact, another plus to a piece of our plan, you know, the Mega Food Supermarket, the place up there in New Britain Avenue.
It's going to be a health clinic or something, right?
The the CCMC and Charter Oak collaborating. They're going to be doing some great program, and it has.
And you're keeping the
beautiful
city out of
design.
it, though, right? You're keeping the city out of it?
What do you mean? It's keeping the city out. of it.
It seems like usually when the city gets involved in these projects, they never happen.
Oh no, I don't think the city. The city, as a matter of fact, have approved the design.
Kind of like the
Planning
Channel
and-
3 building? Remember where Channel 3 was? We were supposed to have this
I
office
know.
building going up.
I know, but
That's a nice vacant lot. When you get off the city, come into Hartford now, and
Yeah.
you see all the rubble on the ground. That's,
Yeah, but no, planning and zoning actually has approved the design, and it's a beautiful design. It fits into the neighborhood. It looks like the other houses in the neighborhood.
Are you trying to say that grocery store doesn't fit?
No, that grocery store was just a big box there. And I don't understand why people build, well, maybe because it was a grocery store, they need the parking in the front. But anyway, they came to our NRC meeting because planning and zoning asked them to come, and, you know, they brought us the design and everything. And I'm very, very much pleased with what's going on there. So that is one other thing that would be, you know, that we can say something good is happening.
Something positive, yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
So I'm really happy about that. So that's now all I need to do now is to get the plan passed at City Council. We're supposed to file our paperwork, and so we can start looking at the streetscape project for Broad Street and Maple Avenue.
Okay.
You know. So I mean, if we can get those streets done, that would be my biggest. You know, I would be really happy because you know what? It makes those people around those avenues feel good about where they're
Well,
living.
you know, you clean up these blighted properties, you put something there that's presentable. Even the
Yes.
laundromat that went in on New Britain Avenue,
Yeah, that
that's a
looks
big
good.
plus.
Yeah.
So there's things that can be done, but it's still very difficult
It's a
to
lot
bring a
of
business
work.
to Hartford
I know.
with the
it's-
tax rate.
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, working with the tax structure and everything. Whatever happened with the the idea you gave to Matt Ritter, and have you heard
Oh,
from Matt?
yeah, actually, back when I was running for council, one of the big things, it's a huge deterrent to
It still
economic
is.
development, is our tax rate in Hartford. And basically, when I was running for council, I came up with a plan, which all the incumbents said it wasn't necessary because we were cutting taxes. They gave back a mill last year. As it turns out, that was nothing but a joke, an election year fraud perpetrated on the voters. But Matt Ritter liked the idea because I had put it on my blog, which today you'll see along the top of the screen the address for the blog, WeThePeopleHartford.com. So if you want to know what I'm thinking when I'm not here spouting off on TV, you can go there and read my thoughts on the blog. But anyways, I had put a posting on the blog about why we can't compete business-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, why don't we have grocery stores? Well, look and see the number of large grocery stores that are built within a few thousand feet of the Hartford city limits, whether it's Prospect Avenue, the Stop and Shop on Jordan Lane. We do have the Stop and Shop on New Park Avenue. But the majority of the grocery stores aren't built in Hartford because a big part of it is taxes.
Right. And
If you could go to Wethersfield and open up a grocery store and pay 34 or 35 mills, why would you bring that to Hartford and pay 73 or 74 mills on your taxes, which, again, every time I talk about a mill, people say, what are you talking about? Explain it.
You gotta
A mill
explain.
is basically $1 for every $1,000 you're assessed. So that's how you're assessed. If your mill rate is 1 mill, for every $1,000 of value, you pay $1 for every 1,000.
Okay.
If your mill rate, as it is in Hartford, is 73 mills or 74 mills,
That's a lot.
you pay $74 for every
For every
1,000
1,000.
of
That's a
value.
lot.
So let's just say you have a car worth $10,000. You're going to pay $750 a year in
For
taxes
tax.
on that car. Whereas if you registered that car in Wethersfield, Windsor,
It would be
Bloomfield,
cheaper.
you'd probably pay half of that. So the mill rate is a huge deterrent when you look at taxes. And as you say, okay, what's a business going to pay taxes on? The building? No. A business pays on every piece of furniture, every piece of shelving,
Yes.
all what they call personal property that's in that building. Every cash register, every telephone, the telephone system, the copier, the time clock on the wall. You have to claim all that with the city once a year. They figure out what it's worth, and you get taxed on that. So it's not just your property.
It's
And
all
if
your
you have vehicles that you
Yes.
park on that property, behind the grocery store, you have delivery trucks, you're paying 74 mills on all those trucks. So anyways, the plan that I had come up with was to become competitive, we need to have a tax plan that any business that commits to moving to Hartford, we should take the average of the surrounding suburbs and offer that as an initial tax rate.
That's the way to attract
And
people.
you attract them, it's no longer a deterrent, it's a way to get businesses into Hartford, because there's a lot of traffic here. If you want to open up, I don't know what kind of store, but say you want to open up a candle shop, you're going to get more traffic driving by your storefront every day in Hartford than you would out in Ellington somewhere. So Hartford has the attractiveness of the feet on the ground, the bodies. But it doesn't have the attractiveness of being business friendly and being able to say, okay, come here, make the best profits you can, put out the best products you can, we're going to work with you. And it's like,
Yes.
no, don't come to Hartford because your profits half of it's going to go for taxes
Yes.
more than what you would pay in the suburbs. So and Matt Ritter, when I posted on the blog, he called me one morning and said he read it and he liked the idea. At the time, he was meeting with the Metro Hartford Alliance, which is like the Chamber of Commerce for the big companies.
Yes,
I
we
don't
know
think there's
that.
many of our small businesses
we
in there.
don't connect
Because we
with
just,
them.
first of all, you can't afford the dues
No,
and
the
things.
dues, right.
And, I hate to say this, but I really don't think the Metro Hartford Alliance
Really
is looking out
represent-
for you or I or the little restaurant or the grocery store,
Right.
the bodega on the corner. They're looking out for the Travelers, the Aetnas.
Yeah, big corporation. The big corporation.
Oh, I thought we had a call, but no. They're looking out for the people with 100, 200,000, 10,000 employees. They're not looking out for the little businesses. But anyways, Matt Ritter was meeting with the Metro Hartford Alliance. They're a big lobbying force. They have a strong voice at the Capitol. And Matt wanted to run the plan by them to offer the average of the taxes and abatements and things like that. He met with the Alliance one day, and I guess they were definitely in favor of it. and they were supportive. And then he met with a few other people. He called me last week and said it's working its way through the legislature for this session, and he's hopeful that
Something
it'll
might happen
pass.
good.
So that I don't know if he'll call it the Brookman bill or not. But,
Yeah, right. We call it Kevin Brookman's bill of tax, right?
But Matt is a state rep that's attentive to what's going on. I think he's very business friendly, but he impressed me when it wasn't his idea, it was my idea, and he made that clear that
Well, that's good.
I
It's
brought
good
it up
to
first.
give credit
So
where
yeah,
credit
and
is
that's
due.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's going to move forward.
Because Bruce from Sunshine Laundry told me he bought a place in, was that Newington? Half the price that he would have paid here.
Yeah, he bought a place in Newington, behind the Olympia Diner there, up that side street.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
Yeah, but when he total up everything, it will be
It would
half
have
what
made,
he
you
would
know,
have been
and
here.
for people that aren't familiar with it, Sunshine Laundry was a business on Maple Avenue. Did a lot of industrial laundry, tablecloths, you know, if you like Foxwoods, places like that. If they don't want to do their own linens, they hired Sunshine Laundry, all the restaurants, you know, and they'd show up with the clean tablecloths, clean napkins. And I think they did a little bit of dry cleaning though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a devastating fire, just burned the whole place to the ground one winter night, a couple winters, probably 3 or 4 years ago
Yeah,
now.
like about 3.
And it was insured. He received the insurance money to
enough
rebuild.
money though.
Well, it was though, but it would have, for him to rebuild the building and what it would be assessed at in Hartford, it made no sense for him to build that property and then take on the burden of the taxes when he can look at going, like I said, to any of the suburban towns that are half of Hartford's mill rate, Hartford half of our tax rate. So he told me a few weeks ago, unfortunately, he did buy a building in Newington and was moving his operations down there.
But you know, I think it will be in the best interest of the city in general if they seriously, you know, get the legislators to buy into this thing. Because let's face it, when you look at Hartford with the nonprofits, the state buildings that take up most of you know, that would have been paying taxes. I think, you know, if the legislator from the suburban town could look at it and really seriously say, you know, yeah, maybe they should try to do something for Hartford.
Before I'm going to continue on this, but just, and if Jonathan is watching, he was interested in getting John Lender from the Current, because John Lender is basically the one who's brought out the whole CRT story and has done a couple pieces in the Current. There was another one in there yesterday about it. Right before we went on the air, I spoke to John Lender, and he's going to see if the Current would allow him to come on the program to discuss not just CRT, but John Lender, for those that don't know the name or don't know him, is one of the Current's top-notch investigative reporters, has broken a lot of stories. You know, Jeff Cohen, who used to be there, has left and gone to WNPR. But John Lender does a lot of investigative pieces and does some great work. I don't want to say exposing, but that's basically exposing these stories and bringing them out to the public. So he's going to let us know if the Current will allow him to come on. So hopefully in the next week or two, if they give him permission, John Lender will be here and we can talk more about these things.
Well, you see, with the big corporation as CRT, if there's no checks or balance, there's bound to things go wrong with situation like that.
But
when you're talking about money like they got, I'm telling you, there is always room for bad things to happen.
But we have to take, we as the taxpayers, and I say we meaning our elected officials, need to take responsibility or take blame, whatever you want to call it. You can't, you know, it's like putting a box of cookies in front of a kid.
Right, and say, don't eat it.
Just do what you want. It's yours. It's your box of cookies.
Right.
They're going to sit there and eat that whole thing till they get sick.
Exactly. But the point is that who is there like a whistleblower that exposed, because, you know, as a council person, if you're not in there knowing what's going on, you will never really know.
But it's their responsibility when they hold the hearings for CDBG grants.
Where is the money going?
And,
not just give it to me
have some
on
accountability.
paper.
Who are you serving? What are you doing?
Not just talk about what's beautiful things you're doing, but actually showing what you're actually doing.
Yeah, hold on one second. Okay. Okay, you should be on.
Okay, Kevin, I think you addressed part of the issue that I had suggested since last week about the CRT story, and evidently John Linder would be the best source to really give a full, explanation on what's really going on with that situation. You and Hyacinth have been talking about a lot of the issues with the tax structure, with the mill rate being so high in Hartford, and the fact that we have a lot of property that you really can't generate tax revenue from. But I guess you kind of also forgot the human capital side too, because you have a lot more actually what the Republicans or conservatives classify people as takers more than givers. And when you don't have many people, and I'm basically working under the table myself, so I'm not really putting a payroll tax into the city.
What's your address, Jonathan, so we can have the Fed show up there? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling deep down inside not to be paying legitimate taxes, because then at the end of the year you're not getting anything back. So working under the table is not always the best solution. But when you have Kevin and Hyacinth in the economy where you don't have the type of opportunities in your city for your residents to take advantage of. I was in Rocky Hill last week. I looked at WSSB, a very good facility that we used to have in Hartford, even though it probably wasn't hiring many residents in Hartford.
Oh, and I'm trying to get you that number you would ask for, so hopefully I'll have it in the next day or so. But anyways, go ahead.
Yes, the amount of employees that they actually hire, have on, on the payroll. But Kevin, it's a major problem, and I think it needs to be looked into. How do you go about trying to get your human capital in your city paying taxes? Because you're much better off as a giver than you are as a taker. And when you have the Department of Social Services that might be actually taking a lot of resources, I don't know all the ins and outs of how that system works, but I'm just saying, if you have a lot of nonprofit agencies and you have many people relying on the Department of Social Services, you have to find some type of mechanisms in place, Kevin, to put your residents in the workforce where they're paying taxes. Any thrivable community across the country is much better off when you have people paying payroll taxes than not paying taxes. So what do you think is the best way to get the high unemployment and underemployment problem that you have in the city of Hartford, where your residents are now paying taxes and generating a steady income?
Yeah. We'll go ahead and answer that now, Jonathan. But
we could probably look and see what are the needs of the people in the community. What are some? We could start talking about open small businesses. What are really the needs of the people that because you have to have a product that people want.
You got to go back to and every time I think about things like this, you got to go back to a Ronald Reagan statement. Government isn't the solution to the problem. Government is the problem. Government's not here to create jobs, because the jobs that they create are paid for out of our pockets. What we need to do is, and this is a very complex issue, but what we really need to do in a city like Hartford is cut back our spending to the bare bones. We don't need everybody with take-home cars. We don't need all these people making $130,000, $140,000 at City Hall. Cut that. Go back to the basic service of government is providing police, fire, garbage pickup, safe streets. All this nonsense we get into is just that, nonsense. By doing what we're doing, the way our city government runs, we have raised taxes so high that we can't compete. Are we generating revenue off of all the vacant lots downtown?
No, we have over 800 of them.
But if we get businesses opening there, and I don't care if it's Jake's Burgers or Five Guys restaurant or
that can
things that's going to employ 20, 30, 40 people and generate taxes and bring people into the city. That's what we need. We don't have to be looking at the $1 billion skyscraper that somebody's going to agree, because chances are, if they put up that building, it's going to cause more vacancies downtown as people move out of the older buildings into the new one. So we need to look at more of a business sense.
Well,
But
you see, I was talking to a young lady, one of the person who's running on the town committee with us. She has a business in Wethersfield, in Newington. It's a laundromat with a cafe and something else.
Oh, I met
in
her
there.
with you. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So she said she'd love to have something in Hartford, but she can't afford it. She
because
can't
you're going to
afford the
pay
rent.
on every new piece. If she brings in 10 new washers, 10 dryers, she pays 73 mils on every piece of that.
Yes, yes.
So if you bring in $130,000 or $100,000 worth of equipment, just in taxes, you're paying $7,500 a year.
Right.
And they're phasing out a surcharge. There used to be another 15% that you had to pay like that. And we were the only municipality that enforced that law, but it was another 15%. So it's just not inviting. And most people can, even especially if you're on a bus line, somebody can go to Jordan Lane in Wethersfield to a laundromat just as easily as they could if it was on Maple Avenue.
Right.
So where would you, if you were a business owner, where would you open?
Well, first I have to look where it's more feasible. It's
But-
cheaper for me to do business.
But the feasibility,
And
the
then where I
first
will
issue you're going to
go.
look at is taxes.
Yes.
Am I going to pay $3,000 to be in Wethersfield,
Or am I
or
gonna pay
$7,000 or
10?
$8,000 to be in Hartford? And for a small business like you or I, that $3,000 that pays our
lot.
phone bill for the year.
It's a lot of money.
It, pays a
Gotta
good portion of the gas for driving around to customers.
And the rent.
So that's money that all comes out of your pocket. And the more vibrant and the better your profits are, the more people you can hire.
Right. I think the city has to figure out or come up, well, again, we as residents have to come up with ideas of what we can do to attract more people to here. And as I said, the biggest thing is the taxes. But we have to figure out from the state, and we have to go to the state and beg them, please help us, because that's what the city
Imagine
does.
what the state will do. And the state's not the solution right now. The state
No.
is still part of our problem because
Right.
they don't fund us the way they should by
in
statute.
lieu of tax.
But imagine if they came back and said, okay,
No.
another 10% this year because our taxes aren't coming in, sales tax isn't coming in or income tax isn't coming in the way we expected. So we have to reduce funding to state, cities,
But
and
the whole
towns.
point is, if they don't do something for Hartford, we're going to continue to shrink and
But-
shrink away.
But Hyacinth, look at the council. Is there one
Business?
small business owner on
We're
there?
going to need to figure out how we can get them to, look at economic development
Who
in
would-
a different way.
Who on that council? And I really don't consider lawyers as small business people. They have kind of a captive audience. If you're a lawyer, you put an ad up, you're going to get customers to come in, or clients, whatever you want to call them. But let's look at you've got David McDonald, who is paid by the legislature or the Senate, wherever. I think he works for Fonfair as a clerk to one of the committees. He's been paid by government. Raul de Jesus was paid by government before he got let go from the police department, and then he started working for a nonprofit that deals with inmates and people coming back into society. I can't think of anybody on there that's a small business person that hasn't been paid. Ken Kennedy gets paid by the state of Connecticut. You got Aponte, who's an attorney.
But again, who did all that? Who did that?
The
Who
voters
all
did that.
Yeah, the,
The
voters,
voters picked
did
them.
that because the Democratic Town Committee endorsed those people and put them up there. And then the people think, well, because the town committee endorsed them and put them there, that's the way to go.
See,
and they don't look in general at the diversity of what it is that really needs to run this city
that's-
when it comes to who is up there.
That's something else, and we're hoping, I haven't even mentioned this to you yet, hopefully you're available, but I think we're going to have a special, I checked last week, and Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30 is open, and a week from tonight, Monday, from 9 to 10 is open. So I think we're going to have two specials, get people on discussing what is the town committee and why it's important. But I stopped at a Dunkin' Donuts this morning, and somebody was talking to me and said, they had a friend that was running, and they were like, why are people so interested in the town committee? And it depends who you ask. You and I know, are interested in the town committee because we want to change the quality and the caliber of the candidates we pick. We don't want all the political hacks that have
Right.
played the game for
Conflict
years
of interest
to keep
kind of
getting their
thing.
spots because they want to take care of themselves. What we want to do is get, be like the personnel department for
People
the
who
city.
understand
You're going to go sit
city.
in front of the personnel people and present your resume if you want the job of city council person or state representative or state senator. It's not going to be because you've played the games and you've handled out all the little pieces of cheese to everybody that, okay, here's your cheese, you keep happy over there and give us your votes at election time. And here's your little piece of silver over here, you go do what you got to do and give us that vote at election time. Now, we want people that are going to prove themselves. What have you done? What are your ideas? What are you going to do in the future? What are you going to do to make Hartford and essentially our state a better place? And it all starts with the town committee. And I don't think people understand that.
Right.
Probably because for far too long, they've heard town committee members that they've never known, they've never met, they've never talked to.
They've never known.
And they think the town committee is something up there in the clouds that does nothing and means nothing. No, the town committee is essentially where our whole political process starts.
Well, that's what when I do the door knocking, that's what I'm talking to people about. I ask them, do you know what's a town committee? No, they don't know. Okay, and so I'm saying, shouldn't the registrar be going out there talking to people, do more publicity? And what is the town committee?
Well, I don't think it's the registrar's job.
Well, the town committee are supposed to be doing that to educate people on the process and what it is that individual do. Okay, what's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican? Stuff like that.
But see, that
There
again,
needs to be more education.
I would disagree with you on that. We don't disagree often,
Right.
but it's
Well,
not
what do you
it's
think?
not the registrar's position.
Okay, whose position it is?
If we had town committees that
Working
were
town-
doing their jobs,
Working town committee.
let's say if the town committees were run like your
way-
NRZ is run, where you have regular meetings, people come in, you listen to them, what's your problem? Is your trash being picked up? What can we do to make government more efficient? That's what the town committee should be doing. Not just having, fundraisers to raise money so they can go off and advertise campaigns. The town committee should be the foundation for our whole political process. And it's, we could probably have Reverend Brown come in and give us more the parables here. But, if that foundation is built out of sand, you're going to crumble. But if you start building a solid foundation, whatever you build on top of that is going to be solid.
Yeah.
We don't have solid political operations now. We have a town committee on the Democratic side that can't even get people out of their homes once a month to go to a meeting and have a quorum.
Right.
Something's wrong.
And the few that sit in where they're sitting think they own the title of that position.
Well, and that's,
Okay.
they think that they can run around the town with their clipboards telling everybody else what to do. And, I'm from a political family, I've got X last name, and, my father did this, my brother did this, my mother did that, so I'm entitled to be on the town committee.
Yeah.
Well, what have you done for us lately? That's what we need to be asking people. What have you done to make the city a better place? What have you done to go and stand up and say, we need to do this, this is wrong, we need to fix it?
Right.
Instead of sitting back and saying, well, I can't say anything because they'll force me off the town committee and then I won't get that contract or I won't get that $200 paycheck on election day when I work in the polls. That's what our town committee is now. And that's what's wrong with the system. How much money have you made off politics? What do you make off your NRZ? Maybe you get a bottle of soda each month that people don't finish?
No. The bottle of soda that comes from my resident that comes to the meeting, just to know that, right?
Well, I think you take I think you take the open bottles home.
And I bring it back.
Well, no, that's, but there's other people that, because they were on the town committee, have got, checks for their grandchildren of $10,000, $20,000 from a senator candidate for, U.S. Senate. We see the people that, because they're on the town committee, their businesses get X amount of dollars, as grants given to them, or they get this city contract to run this, or, we're going to run an anti-violence program, standing
Call
on
it
street
any kind of
corners.
thing.
And
just to get the money.
nobody, again, it goes back to the council.
Yeah.
Nobody questions,
Well,
what have you done?
I still want to talk to the council about the economic development and how are we going to try to, bring some change to the city of Hartford and making sure that we have as much resident in the city of Hartford that wants a job, gets a job, okay? And we need to
And
seriously...
that's another area that we fail. We have all these job training program. We've got the jobs funnel.
Why
We've
do you
got this
train
and
them
we've
if
got
they
that.
can't get a
where
job?
one of them, the executive director makes, I think, $220,000 for running a program, but we don't find jobs for the people that come to the program. How is that boosting morale for anybody in the city?
Nope.
Oh, come to this training program. We'll teach you how to, be an iron worker or a pipe fitter or whatever. We're going to teach you a trade. You got to go all the way out to Pomfret
But where is the
to
job?
go to the classes.
Where's the job?
But come through our jobs funnel. And then when you finish, okay, where do I go? Oh, there's no jobs
And
out
you
there.
know,
Sorry.
it is a good idea to train people, but unless you're putting people in a job, it really doesn't really count up to much.
Well, that's
So I think it's really important. I like the fact that they're getting trained, but please get these people a job.
I think, and again, when you go to human nature, people don't mind taking that check. Well, I think it's our
Is that
favorite.
another caller?
I think it's our favorite caller calling again. We probably missed something on one of his questions, but hello.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Yes, I just want to finish off with one last statement. You just mentioned something about an executive director that's making over $200,000. It wouldn't be a bad idea to call the name of that agency if you knew it, number one. I think number two, Kevin, most of the problems why you have
Did we lose him, or-
Turn it back around.
labor market, as many people say, you got to have either the criteria or the experience. You have to you can't have a felony on your record. That's another major problem. And you also have to have the type of networking resources to know where the jobs are at, how to go about getting, networking towards the companies that might be hiring or might be in a position to do some training. But I think the bottom line for Harvard and Kevin, and how would you go about replacing a lot of these nonprofits and these job funnels that's not really producing residents a better, ratio to get into the mainstream economy?
Okay. I think, as far as the nonprofits, the biggest thing you have to look at and say, what's working for us and
What's the purpose
what's not working.
they serve?
If last summer we had, what were we at, 24, 25 homicides, not even halfway through the year? Well, then clearly your anti-violence programs that you're dumping millions of dollars into with political operatives aren't working. Let's look at a different program.
Oh, that's
Let's-
why we have the shooting task force.
Well, that's something that luckily
they're
the governor
doing
did
very
that.
well.
But I'm talking about
Oh,
another nonprofit that is, their executive director is also running for town committee. So I don't want to bash him or mention his name
right.
because
That's
it'll be
okay.
self-serving for me because I'm running
Right.
against him. But let's look at some of these things, and CRT does perform good programs. The daycare centers, the things they do out there, they do provide a service. Could that service be streamlined? And it's the same thing in city government. The police department's top-heavy, the fire department's top-heavy, public works is top-heavy. Do we need all these administrators, or do you just hire people, get them to do their jobs, and make suggestions on how to streamline things?
I think it goes back to accountability. And I mean,
Well, that's a big part of it.
If you're a manager of something, and you want to make sure you hire the right people, the right amount of people, you don't want that top heavy, okay? Because again, the bottom line is, how effective are you, even though you might have these top heavy people?
Well,
Are you
that's-
really making a difference? Are you making
I don't
changes
think we
that
are.
affects the, you say the daycares for the CRT program. I'm looking at that program in general, and I'm just wondering how yet still so many of our children are still failing in school. Shouldn't those programs should be preparing our children psychologically, emotionally, getting them ready for that first kindergarten years? Or what is it you
Look
think?
at the Board of Education.
Well, that's
Look
another
at,
situation.
But it all goes back, there's so many facets to this that all the parts of the puzzle, somebody's got to start putting them together. So instead of everything just spread all over the table meaning nothing, let's start putting that puzzle together. So even if we're only seeing a little corner of it, it starts making sense to us what that puzzle means. And education is a big part of it. Why are we fighting so hard to take over a school in Manchester?
Oh yeah, that's another thing.
When we can't even run
Can't
the
even
schools in
run
our
the
own
ones
city.
that we have in the city of Hartford.
And I've talked to a couple people on the
Okay.
Board of Education, and part of the feeling is that the superintendent's bonuses are based on performance.
Yeah.
Now, if we all of a sudden bring in a magnet school with 300 students that are
From
excelling,
Hartford, yeah.
no, that are top-notch students,
Right.
that's all that's going to do is boost the averages up, so she's going to look better at her bonuses. Now, I would say if we take over this school in Manchester, put something in there, a clause in the contract that this will not be included
In the bonus.
in the bonuses
Right.
for the superintendent. And if that goes through without a fight, then we know this is happening for the right reason.
I still think that Craig would do a better job in taking care of that building out there and the kids out there.
Yep.
I do not think the City of Hartford Board of Education should be involved with
But
that.
Craig is in
Send the
some sort
children
of
there.
butting heads with
Right.
Manchester Community
well,
College.
the reason why they're
So-
doing that is because Hartford is saying, yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay? I think that's the reason. But the whole point is that we have no business as the City of Hartford Board of Education trying to get into another city,
Well,
trying to do their job
another
when we
board
have so
member-
much building in our City of Hartford. These schools are failing.
Well,
or
a
they're
board
dirty.
member explained to me, because they were supposed to vote on it, there was an emergency meeting called for, I think, tomorrow night, where they were supposed to vote on all this and slam it through. And then there were some legal issues raised by one or two people on the board that this isn't legal the way
Right.
you're doing this. So then it was, okay, now we're going to put the brakes on it. We can discuss it, but we can't vote. But one of the things that it was explained to me is that with these magnet schools, under the chef decision, we were supposed to get X percentage, and whether that's 30%, 50%, I'm not 100% sure. But we were supposed to get a certain percentage. The schools outside of Hartford aren't abiding by that, and we're not getting the number of seats for Hartford students that
Well,
we should.
that's
So
something
the
we should
argument
be
is,
working on.
well, but the argument is, if we take over this school in Manchester, then as Hartford running it, we can force the number of seats that we're supposed to get for Hartford students to happen. Well, why don't we abide by the chef decision? And if it's not being done the way it should, if Hartford's not getting their percentage,
Right,
then call
we
them out
force
and
them.
say,
Because
are you going to put the seats for Hartford kids, or do we have to get a
go
judge
to
to
the state
order you to
make
do
sure
it?
done. Because in Hartford, we are doing it. The kids are supposed to be coming in from the suburbs are here. Okay? So again, we should have that same
Yeah,
opportunity.
but how many of those kids would come in from the suburbs to go to Weaver or Buckley?
No, those
No.
are regular schools. Those
Yeah.
are regular high schools.
So until the kids from the
You're talking
suburbs want
about
to
the
come in
magnet schools.
and make a choice to go to any Hartford school, then we know there's not the parity isn't there.
Well,
We've got good schools and we've got bad schools.
Again, David, Kevin, what you need to understand is that half of our budget for the Board of Education is going into transportation, all right? With this school choice thing that's going on, you know, I keep continuing to say, we need to fix the school we have next door.
And why don't we look
so
at
our children
transportation?
can go to those schools.
Why don't we look at transportation? Instead of giving the busing contract to a politician's kid, let's look to see how competitive it really is. And are we getting the best bang for our buck?
No.
This is where town committee comes in. This is where politicians come in. The school bus contract went to the son of one of your town committee members in the 6th district.
Oh, in the 60s, not
Not on your slate. And he's running against you on a different slate. So this is where people need to look at.
Yeah.
And if people want to give us phone calls and say what's going on, we'd be glad to call people out, and that's something that needs to happen more often.
But seriously, we need to seriously look at, so we have school choice. We call it school choice. But the point is, you know why parents are looking for choice? Because they feel like the school over that other side of town is better. They don't think that
But is
their
it
school
really?
next door should be that better school. Instead of I busing my kids to, say, the north end, I should be keeping my kids right in the south end. When I send my kids into the north end, when my kids were going to school, I took them there, okay? I took them there. I get them on the city bus back to where they live.
Yep.
But these are the things. We are, we're pampering most of these parents. Oh yeah, you live right over here, and yet your kids got to go all the way over there. And
and how much is spent, if we're busing kids to Enfield, so out of your education day, you're taking 2 or 3 hours on a bus? How does that make any sense?
So
Neighborhood
all we
schools.
have to do is to fix the system.
Well, that's.
Get the resource that these teachers need inside of the building to do the jobs.
Well,
Okay?
and I know part of it is the 5 minutes. Oh, okay. Part of it is the racial element, which you're going to get that in any urban area. the same as you are in Litchfield or
Why-
Torrington.
Kevin,
You know,
why do you think people pull their kids out of the school? Because there were no quality of education in there. If there are quality education, they will send their kids into the city of Hartford.
but it's not that we're, and I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but it's not like we've got dumber kids in Hartford.
They're smart kids.
So we've got to bring kids in from outside
Oh, yeah.
to teach them.
Right.
No,
Or-
there's something wrong with our school
Or
system.
we have to sit beside the white kid to get educated.
Well, that's.
And that's the kind of a thing. The kids
I'm glad
are
you said it rather than me. That was my. That was kind of my
kids,
point.
The kids
But-
have to be busted from the Hartford system to go into the suburbs beside a white kid and say, oh yeah, they get better education. Well, you know what? It's wrong.
Well,
we are
let's-
sending the wrong message everywhere anyhow.
Let's look at why the system is broke. I'm a strong believer in neighborhood schools.
Me too.
And you shouldn't have to go across the city. Not just a neighborhood school, but it builds a sense of community. If those
Our
parents are
children
going to
have-
PTO meetings, if the parent, we lived for most of my elementary school. I went to Catholic school, but we lived probably half a block away from the school. So we walked to school.
Yes.
Our parents were involved. Our mother, we'd go home every day for lunch, or our mother would come to school and volunteer in the cafeteria one day a
school.
week. We didn't have like food preparation. One day a week they had hot dogs. And that was like a special thing, So parents would come in, volunteer, prepare the hot dogs, kids would buy the hot dogs and everything. But it built a sense of community.
Yes.
Not just with the kids, but with the parents.
Right.
My mother is still friends today with people that
She knew.
met through our school.
Yeah.
You don't get that by busing your kid to Enfield.
No, our children have no sense of a community feeling.
And that's what's wrong
Yeah,
with Hartford.
we know, Trish. Yeah, our children don't have no sense of community. They don't feel a sense of community because they're not in their community anymore.
No.
Okay? So until the Hartford Public School can say, let's do something just good. And I'm talking about getting the parent involved, but sending off our children into the suburban school or trying to take over another school in another city, it does not help. It
No.
does not help.
And
okay?
that's, we can try to reinvent the system all we want, but why were kids in the 50s, 60s, and probably the 70s getting decent educations, coming out of school, being able to read and write and, figure out math? Like when I'm going through line at the grocery store and I'm figuring out prices of things in my head, other people say, how can you do that?
Because you
we
used
weren't-
to have to do that
You used
by
to have
hand.
to do it. That was the
Yes,
education
yes.
process. Or even, like I think I've told the story on here before, my nephew who was, 11, 12 years old and just didn't want to read and was reading far below his grade level. I had to bribe him and say, you
Motivation.
read this
He needs-
summer, you read 3 books
And I'll give you
and give me a
something.
book report on each one at the end of the summer. I'll get you the iPod you want.
Right.
And
but
the kid now loves to read.
Yeah, but most of our parents are not motivated.
1 minute.
Yeah, most of
Oh.
our parents are not motivated.
Let's end
but
this.
anyway.
We're out of time. Hopefully
right.
the phones will be fixed soon. They got to pay the bill, I guess. So-
Come on, Kevin, stop beating up on public
And hopefully our
access.
lighting looks better today. Hopefully you like the way it looks. I think we did a better job with the lighting. Okay. That's it. We're out of here, Trish. Go ahead.
Okay, have a good week.
And cut out camera 2. There you go.